Um, the width is simply what you saw. How many characters does that variable have? Size, variable size. Decimal places, for the only one we have right here that has a decimal place are the ones for grade. We have 1 decimal place. To change that, you can click in the cell and just up arrow or down arrow as needed. The other place to change that could be just by clicking on type, and you could change it right here. It says decimal places, and then you can put that in. A variable label is if you want to put more information about the variable. For instance, if you have a survey and you have survey data, you can put in the survey question in this label. And so it gives you more information about the variable while you keep the variable names very short. Value labels, the values. In this case, this is where you designate what the coding is for your variable. For instance, I have an ethnic variable here, and you can see in data view under ethnic, well, you can't really see a difference here because most of these people, all these people have just the same label. So let's go back to variable view. If you look under ethnic, you can see how I have coded the ethnicities. A 1 stands for white, 2 for Native American, 3 for African American, and 4 for Hispanic. And this is how you would change a value if you needed to. If I go back to data view and click this toggle switch, the 1 and the A, you'll see the 1s for where the whites come up. So back to variable view. This next variable down, recode ethnic, I wanted to show you, I basically looked at this variable, ethnic, white, Native American, African American, and Hispanic, and I recoded that variable so that I made it just 2 possibilities, white and other. So all of those, all of the ethnicity races besides white, I put into 1 category so that I could make this variable a dichotomous variable. Dichotomous means it has only 2 values. So that's the value. That actually just shows you any special coding that you might have. Now you'll see there are no value labels here for ACT scores, the ACT scores, college GPA, high school GPA, and the COMPASS scores. I don't need values for those. I'm not coding those because that data for instance, ACT is just the number. I didn't have to code this something else. I'm just using it as its number. If you go down a little farther, you'll see in a place where I did recode, for instance, grade in Math 23. If you click on that box, you'll see that it's coded 0 for a grade of 0 to 1.5 and a 1 for a grade of 2.4. I can change this like this for 0 to stand for, let's see, I'm going to leave those grades in there, but I'm going to call it not successful. And then I want to make, before you hit OK, select change. And for this one, I'm just going to add successful. Often this is how we define student success in courses. Change. And now we're okay, or I just want to say okay. So you can see that I have changed the value of these codes for recode in grade for course Math 23. So if I go back to data view for recode Math 23, let's go over and look at that. Okay, here's recode Math 23, and you can see I have my zeros and ones, but let's hit that toggle switch to see what happened. Okay, so I changed that value label, and it successfully was incorporated into that value. In this view, I can also see what all the potential options are just by clicking on it and hitting that arrow key. And I believe this one was not successful. Okay, so back to variable view. Those are the value labels. The missing data code, if I wanted, let's say you have some survey data and you have a Likert scale, a variable that was measured with a Likert scale, and you have a don't know, strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, and strongly agree. Oftentimes we want to throw out that don't know response. And so if we coded the don't know response as a 0, we could throw that out by saying we want to miss on the 0. Okay, so let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to just add a variable here and show you. I'm just going to make this up. So how about we link it to that orientation variable? Did you satisfaction with orientation? And I'm going to make it numeric. It doesn't need to have any decimal places. I'm just going to make this up so that we know what it is. How satisfied were you with orientation? And my value labels will be, I typically, when coding, you typically like to make the strongest or the most value the highest coding. So my 5, my 5 will be very satisfied. And you need to add that. Okay, and we'll just go on down. 4 is satisfied. Add. 3 is neutral. Add. 2 is dissatisfied. Add. 1 is very dissatisfied. Add. And I'm going to code the 0 as this response category called don't know. And there I did it. I can just say, okay. In this case, sometimes I don't really want to know about the don't knows. So I could go into this missing and tell it to skip those zeros. Typically I use this no missing values, but I wanted just to show you what this column was all about. Okay. So right now it won't include any of the don't know responses because I told it that those would be missing by doing that. So that's how you add a variable and how you might define it, at least up to this column point. Let me make this window a little bit bigger. Right now we haven't done anything that has created any output yet. We're just checking out the data file. The next column over is how many columns in terms of a visual you want that variable column to take up. And so what I mean by visual is you can see down here that these are a little different. Most of these are 11, so this is 11 spaces essentially for that variable field, 17 spaces for recode math. So let's take a look at what that looks like in data view. So we're going to look at these two variables right here, recode compass reading and recode math 23 in data view. And I don't know if you can see this very easily, but with these two variables, recode compass reading is 11 spaces wide, and it's a little smaller than this one that had been marked to 17. The variable we just created, satisfaction with orientation, was only 8 characters wide. And you can see how narrow it is. So that's what I mean by a visual. Back to variable view. So that's what the column stands for here in variable view. Align is just like it sounds. How are the data aligned in the cell? And all of our data are aligned to the right of the cell. This ends this part of the module's presentation. Please move on to review the next part